Welcome to the Justice Room. Your life, your rights, your options. Experience and learn from discussions with legal professionals and other experts about the law, its challenges, and how it could affect you. Here at the Justice Room. Welcome to the Justice Room. Okay. So, who is a judicial role model that let me just ask it quite simply. Who do you feel is a judicial role model for you?
I would say at this point, he's no longer on the bench, but we had Chief Justice Charlie Wells. And the reason I say that is there are lots of great judges, and there are lots of great judges that make important decisions. But when the case of Gore versus Bush was being heard in the state, which was one of the most important cases, maybe the most important case in the history of jurisprudence.
Yeah.
The outcome was who's going to be president. Charlie Wells was the Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court, and regardless of whether you agree with the decision that he made, which was ultimately reversed by the U.S. Supreme Court, he insulated that court from all the politics, from all the people screaming, and we have people screaming all over the place.
Yeah.
I want my guy president, it's not fair, recount the votes. Charlie Wells kept the Florida Supreme Court separate and apart from all the politics.
Yeah.
And I just truly respect anyone being able to do that with that much on the line.
Right. That's actually a very good role model. I'm going to close the show out. I'm going to ask you one last question that I think that somewhat puts you in a generalized format so that you can tell our listeners anything that you would like to share with them about yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you. I believe that I'm the candidate with by far the most legal experience, with the highest rating among my peers. There's actually, in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a new rating system just for the state of Florida where judges and lawyers vote for the top 5% of attorneys in the state. I've been voted to that top 5% every year of those years except one. None of the other candidates in this race has ever been voted to that list in any area of law that they practice. One of the things that I think differentiates me that I haven't talked about is my appellate law experience. I handle all my own appeals, and if you talk to attorneys, you'll find that the majority of them will say that legal research and legal writing skills are really honed, are really perfected when you do appellate work.
Yeah.
And so I think as a judge, I'll be able to write some very good decisions, and I'll be able to do some very good research because of my experience. I think I have more life experience than any of the other candidates. It's not their fault. They're all younger than I am.
Yeah.
Kind of a cute thing that I could say is when I first started preparing cases for trials, two of my opponents were preparing for prom. And one of them was in elementary school.
Okay.
So it's not fair to them that I have all this experience, but the fact is when the voters look at who's the best candidate, you want somebody with a lot of life experience.
Right.
I also think that my community service, at least based on what they have on their websites, is much more. And maybe the most important thing for a judge is being able to handle stress, being able to handle challenges. And I think that the way I've lived my life, I've shown that,
Right.
demonstrated that on many levels, and I'll leave the audience, and thank you very much for listening in or watching, with what everybody seems to remember about me, which is, regardless of what I tell them about my experience and my qualifications, my 3 oldest daughters all got married in the same year that my youngest daughter got her driver's license.
Wow.
So if you want somebody that can handle challenges
Yeah.
and can handle stress and thrives on it, I really think that I can do a lot of good for the Central Florida community and for the legal community as our next county court judge, and I would be honored to have a vote for Fred Schott in August.
I'd like to thank you for coming and joining me here at the Justice Room and answering and speaking with us today about your campaign for Seminole County.
It was my pleasure.
Well, thank
really
you for
was.
coming. I'd like to have you come back if we could. Mr. Schott, is there what I'd like? Let me ask you this real quick. Do you have anything that you would like to tell the listeners? Any upcoming events, any news events, any type of functions that you are going to be appearing at that you would like to maybe have your voters come out and talk to you or meet you?
Well, probably the best function that they can come to is that the Central Florida Association of Women Lawyers, CFAL, is having a judicial candidate forum where all of the candidates for all of the contested seats in Seminole and Orange are going to appear and have to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be July 2nd at the University Club on Central at 11:30 a.m.
Okay.
So if anybody would like to come there, if they want to find out about my events, about my endorsements, anything else, all they have to do is hit fredschottforjudge.com, and they can see that. And I will probably be knocking on their door at some point in the next 60 days or so, because I'd like to meet everybody and find out their concerns and see if we can make this an even better community. Seminole County is truly blessed as a county. We have many less problems than Orange does.
Yeah.
And so I'd like our county to be even better, and I think that if I work hard, I can make a difference.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you for coming on the Justice Room, and we're going to keep up with your campaign through the justiceroom.com website. And, of course, we'd like to invite you, whether you win or whether you lose your bid for county judge, of course, to come back and talk to us a little bit about your experiences in running for a county court judge and or your experience if you win the bid for county court judge. If you'd like to come back and talk to us a little bit about that.
You name the time and the date, I'll come, Jay.
Wonderful. We'd be lucky to have you back. I'd like to thank our listeners for listening in today with Mr. Fred Schott, candidate for county court judge. And this is your host, Jay Jacome, and I would like to thank you for listening to another episode of The Justice Room.